problem is a modification of what you did before. So okay then yun. I think that's a good thing. So we're not gonna get everything right, and so I think kung magkakamali, maganda din na i-rewrite. Okay, so nangyari kasi dito, we ended up with that expression k squared minus 4 on the right hand side. And so we're hoping to have a circle. Ayun, we would have a circle with radius r if what we see on the right side is the square of the radius. But then for that to be the square of the radius, then as you pointed out, k squared minus 4 has to be positive. All right, so even before you take the square root, well, it should be something that we could take the square root of. So k squared is strictly greater than 4, so that's right. And then this is going to be a single point if k squared minus 4 is equal to 0. In that case, what's going to happen is that x minus 5 halves quantity squared plus y plus 3 halves quantity squared would be 0. So there's still going to be a pair of coordinates that will satisfy this equation. But because you have the sum of two non-negative quantities being equal to 0, that forces both terms to be 0. So it forces x to be 5 halves and y to be negative 3 halves. So if we're forced to admit only one pair of values, x and y, then we end up with just a single point. And in fact, that point is the point 5 halves comma negative 3 halves. So the graph still consists of a point. It's just that it's going to be a single point. And so you could imagine the circle and then the radius collapsing. And so the circle collapses into the center. Then we get the empty set if k squared minus 4 is less than 0. So that means you cannot even take the square root here on the other side. And so, yep, k is strictly between negative 2 and positive 2. Now, I remember the first time that you solved this, you were not able to account for all values of k. Pero dapat meron na kasi for a particular value of k, dapat may conclusion. Circle ba to or hindi? Okay, so dapat all values of k are accounted for here. Okay, now this is so there's another problem. I'm trying to go back to the original statement. So I think it's something green. I'm just not sure where it is. Okay. The circle containing negative 12, 6 and tangent to 3x minus 4y equal to negative 10 at 2, 4. I'm not sure where we where that appears. Let me, if you remember where, let me know. But for now,
Kung di ko po nilagay po yung date po doon, sabihan same po yung date.
Okay, all right.
Yung April 15 din po siya.
So, I just want to, oh, ito pala.
Ayun.
Okay, I just want to mark it. Ang lapit-lapit lang pala. Tangent to 3x minus 4y equal to negative 10 at 2, 4. All right, so I suppose this is it, the line 3x minus 4y equals negative 10. And then 2, 4 is a point time path. 3 times 2 minus 4 times 4. 6 minus 16 is indeed negative 10. All right. Okay, so point of tangency there. So that means, all right, so this is the equation. So now this line, this tangent, has equivalent form y equals 3/4 x plus 5 halves. Okay, so the slope is 3/4. So you took the slope negative 4/3. So because here the slope is 3/4, so that makes the slope for the radial segment to be negative 4/3. So your goal is to figure out the equation of this line, because the slope is negative 4/3, and it passes through the point with coordinates 2, 4. So this is what you got: y equals negative 4/3 x, 8/3 plus 20/3, 12/3, so 20/3. However, okay, I take issue with your usage of the term perpendicular bisector. I know what you're doing, but between 2 points, their perpendicular bisector is the line cutting through like that. Okay, perpendicular to the segment connecting these 2 points AB, and then so not only is it perpendicular, but it passes through the midpoint of those 2 points. So the term perpendicular bisector makes sense when you're talking about 2 points. So the perpendicular bisector of 2 points. However, there are no 2 points that are being referred to here. So I would describe the line in green as the
Wait lang, saan yung...
line through 2, 4 and the center. Okay, the equation is correct. It's just the term that you used. Okay, now I see here perpendicular bisector of -12, 6, the other point, and 2, 4. That is appropriate use. So -5, 5. -12 plus 2, -10/2. So -5, 5.
Hindi pala po siya perpendicular bisector of Ilabo.
Yeah, hindi perpendicular bisector. You got the right equation. It's the equation that's relevant. I was just calling you out for the name that you used for it.
Ay, hindi pala po siya perpendicular bisector. It's the, ano po, it's the
Perpendicular line lang siya.
perpendicular line lang po pala.
Yeah, through the point of tangency. That's what I'm saying.
Abo.
All right. And then for -12, 6, going to 2, 4, nung slope nila, I think that's a -1/7. Okay, 6 minus 4, -12 minus 2. So 2 over -14, -1/7. So this is correct. All right, so the slope that we need is 4, is 7. So the slope is 7, and then it passes through the -5, 5, which is all right. -5, 5 is not the tama. -5, 5 is not necessarily the center kasi ito yun eh. Okay, but you're right kasi you have a chord. P, Q is a chord, and then it's perpendicular. The perpendicular bisector of any chord contains the center.
Medyo ano pala po yung figure ko po eh. Medyo misleading eh. Sana mas ano sa wording itsura.
Okay. Sige. Y minus 5, and then x plus 5, 7, 7x, 35 plus 5, 40. And then, all right. So now the center is contained in both these lines. So we just need to solve the simultaneous system of equations. 7x plus 40. -4x plus 20 equals 21x plus 120. So we have 25x equals -100. X is -4. And so we have -28 plus 40, so 12. So the center is -4, 12. And then to find the radius, we calculate the distance of the center, -4, 12, from 2, 4. So we have 36 plus 64, 100. The square root is 10. So x plus 4 quantity squared plus y minus 1 quantity squared equals 100. And that's the correct equation for the circle. All right. Okay. Okay. Ba't ka sumasaya? Masaya ka? All right, we got to do something about that. Bawal ang sayaw. Bawal ang happiness. Okay, not under my watch, kid. All right. Ito Santo galing. Is it from this page as well?
Nakasulat
The
yata.
first part.
Baka hindi po nakuha yung date. Hindi yata nakuha yung date. Sa picture, oh. Ganun.
Yeah. Anong date ito? Can you let me
May
know?
17 po.
Okay, May 17. All right, we were talking about circles at that time. Oh, it says I forgot to. I was looking for green.
No!
I was looking for a green I was looking for a green pentagon.
Not a green po.
Okay. Not a green quadrilateral. This time it's a green pentagon. Okay. Well, not regular, but still a pentagon, of course. Okay. Circle tangent to these two lines, and then the given points of tangent C. Okay, so
Dapat po yung when the pentagon has two right angles, they should call it po a house. Para
right. Okay. It's the bungalow. Okay, house, right. So 4x minus 3y plus 12, negative 3, 0.
Ito po talagang greenaf ko po talaga eh. Yung exact po.
Okay, let's see natin. 3x plus 4y minus 16 at 4, 1. One of the things I do is I check if the points do fit. Okay, and then 4, 1, 12 plus 4 is 16 minus 16. All right, okay. Okay, so so we got 90-degree angles there because of the tangent C. So we want the center. There is something that you would need to point out. All right, because in general, say you have a circle, and then you draw 2 points. You identify 2 points of tangency. Now, as far as points of tangents are concerned, there are infinitely many of those. Okay. Tapos, you're right. So if this is the center, so you get a 90-degree angle there, and you get a 90-degree angle there. But why are you concluding that these 4 points, why are you concluding that they form a square? I get that you have a 90-degree angle there, and that this and that are congruent because that's the radius. But I mean, if you look at what I drew up there here on the right in green, clearly the 4 points made up of the 2 points of tangency, where the two tangents intersect, and the center, where you can see that, they don't have to form a square.
Maybe po it's because of the approximation po of the 90-degree angle. Tinanay ko po sana eh, kung if I make a perfect square, for circle mga po, chinek ko nga po kung gaganon. In fact po, it does. Kasi kailangan po if the figure must be a rectangle kasi there are two opposite right angles po. So it must be a rectangle.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Ganito. Let me show it to you in GeoGebra.
Dito na po talaga yung ano, the ultimate na po dito. Computer generated na po to eh.
Para lang hindi mag-drawing. And also, so I can move some points around. Let's make it 9. Okay. I'm gonna select the following 2 points. Intersection. And then I'm gonna select point here and then point here. Okay. Tapos ito, Joshua, look at
It's an inscribed quadrilateral.
So it's 90 degrees there. Let's see how I can move this points here around. See, you have two opposite sides and they're both 90 degrees, but the figure is not a rectangle.
This is impossible.
It is. Yes.
How is this possible? Okay, so to counter that po, you can find that 3x plus 4y minus 16 po is equal to 0, and 4x minus 3x plus 12 equal to 0 have negative reciprocal slopes.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
You can prove that they are so then you can prove that they have three opposite.
Right, that's the missing part. Okay, so that's the missing part. If you want to argue for a quadrilateral, so again, with the illustration I pointed out to you, I think it's powerful to see it as an image that just because you have two opposite sides making up 90 degrees. Anyway, I mean, after all, ganito na, in a quadrilateral, the sum of the four angles should be 360 degrees. If you have 90 and 90 opposite, all right, you already have 180 degrees. But the other two opposite pair, the restriction remaining is that they add up to 180 degrees, but that doesn't really force them to be 90 and 90. So they could be anything, and that's evidenced by the illustration that I showed you. However, if you could show that of the other two pairs, one of them is 90 degrees, this one, then it would follow the last remaining angle is going to be 90 degrees. And the reason is for this particular situation, because these two lines happen to be perpendicular because it's possible to find their slopes. But then in this case, we got lucky. The problem could very well have been stated for two lines which are not perpendicular to each other. Okay, so ito nagkataon lang na perpendicular sila. So yes, because they're perpendicular, so yun ang kulang. You need to point that out. So therefore you get a rectangle, but then you have two adjacent sides congruent to each other. Therefore, the rectangle can be upgraded into a square. Okay. So what you did is you solve for the intersection of the two lines, 4x minus 3y equals -12, 2x plus 4y equals 16. The intersection is the point 0,4. So this is easily solved. Let me check. Yep. Okay, 0,4, which means because you have a square, the radius is going to be equal to the distance of 0,4 from either of the 2 points. I think you used -30. So the distance is 5. So this is 5 units. And because we have a square, so the radius turns out to be equal to 5. Now the problem's asking for the equation of circles. So we already have the radius. The only thing we need is the kulang na lang would be the center. So by chance, here's the formula for finding the other points of a square given two opposite points. All right. Okay. Let's say you have x1, y1, and then x2, y2. Okay. I think this could be true. It's just not something that I'm familiar with. By the way, how did you How do you know these are true? Or are these formulas that you encountered somewhere?
Na-encounter ko na po yung mga formulas na po yan.
Okay. But do you remember why they're true? Or at least have you seen why they're true?
I haven't seen po the proof. Pero it's just a theorem.
All right. So improve natin. So it's not directly related to what we're doing, but I think pag may makita tayo na na fact, I mean, if it can be proved, I think it's provable naman kasi algebra lang to. So let's say we have 2 points, x1, y1, and then x2, y2. I'm not saying the second point is somewhere to the right and higher. For all we know, maybe x2, y2 is going to be lower. Okay, but let's just put them there so that we can we can visualize. What we need to do is figure out the coordinates of the two other vertices so that we get to form a square. Here's what I would do. What I would do is visualize. All right, kunwari na drawing na tong 2 points ito, how would I look for the other two? The other 2 points. I would look at the perpendicular bisector. Okay, because I know that the other 2 points, the other 2 vertices, they should be in the perpendicular bisector. Okay, so dapat nandoon sila. So, pwede tayong mag-analytic geometry dito. Pwede natin kunin nung slope nito. Slope. Pwede din natin hanapin nung midpoint. Tapos kung ang slope nito ay m, then that means the slope of this perpendicular bisector is -1 over m. And because you have the slope and you have the midpoint, then you can find the equation of this. Okay, pero yun nga lang, there are going to be many points here. Okay, so no other vertex dun sa taas, is it that one? Is it this one? Or is it this one? Or perhaps it's going to be that one. So madami. So ang gagawin ko ay ano ba gagawin ko? I'm gonna argue in terms of slopes. Okay. Suppose x2 is greater than x1 and y2 is greater than y1.
What if y1 is greater than y2?
Sorry, what's that?
What if y1 is greater than y2?
So suppose to, so there will be other cases pa. Pwede nga rin kunwari x2 is equal to x1 eh. So in that case, nandito siya sa taas. All right. So siguro gawin natin x2 is greater than or equal to x1 and then y2 is greater than or equal to y1. So this is just one case. All right. Tapos here's how I would like to do it. Kasi I'd like to think in terms of traveling a certain number of units. So ito, to go that way, that would be a displacement of
it's a vector
minus x1. Oh, all right. So that means from the projection of the midpoint, so from here to here, so that's going to be.
If we're talking about vectors, and then we have this line, what if we just rotate it by 90 degrees?
So actually, yun nga nung iniisip kong gawin, x2, so mga similarity, but basically when you are rotating. Okay, so the idea kasi is, if this is where the other vertex is.
Interesting looking square object.
Okay, so I think that looks much better. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. So kasi, hold on. Ano ba mo? All right. Look at my illustration. Okay. So let's say this is, lakihan natin. Yeah. So we don't have to squint our eyes. Okay. So kung kunwari itong angle nito is alpha, so that's gonna make this alpha.
No.
All right. Pero kasi ano to, kung horizontal to, tas horizontal din to, edi parallel. So however, we have 90 degrees here, itong green. 90 degrees. You see that? 90 degrees. So if part of it is alpha, then this should be 90 degrees minus alpha. So therefore, alpha rin yun. Alpha. Okay. Which means, if you now consider itong triangle na to, and this triangle, they're both right triangles, and they share an acute angle alpha, which means they're similar to each other. However, not only are they similar, they are congruent kasi itong hypotenuses nila the same. Why are their corresponding hypotenuse congruent? Kasi itong point na to, this is the center. Oh, yeah. I know what you mean, or radius and square. All right. So it's from the center to any of the four vertices. So the two angles marked with the purple strike through marks. So well, they're congruent. So the two right triangles are not just similar; they are congruent to each other. So would like to think in terms of therefore paths. Well, I guess you were thinking in terms of vectors earlier. So so nung midpoint kasi, makukuha natin, okay? Nung midpoint, ang coordinates niya ay x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2, right? The usual midpoint formula. So ngayon, what we got to do is imagine from the midpoint, how are we going to travel to get to the two other vertices? All right. So meron tayong vertical displacement, which is this. All right. So drawing natin, hold on, midpoint purple M. So ito yun, ng M. Okay. So nung ano ba yun? So this is y2 minus, color code natin. Ano bang color? Hindi ko pa na itong light. So this is y2 minus y1. So if you divide it in 2, it's gonna correspond to this, but then it's gonna correspond to that.
I already
Okay.
see the formula.
All right, so what we want to do dito sa x coordinate is plus or minus y2 minus y1 over 2.
No, it's real.
It should be. All right. tas ito naman from here to here, that's going to be x2 minus x1.
Bakit
Okay,
why,
so
why
then
bakit
if
I realize po if the triangle is the if the triangle is the if part is part of the pinwheel po in the square, why is the longer leg not included in the side po of the square?
why? Kasi pinwheel. Hindi, kasi itong horizontal na green segment, this is not in the other side of the square eh. So therefore, when you rotate it along the pinwheel, it's also not going to be on the side of the square.
Okay.
Is that all right? Okay. So therefore, x2 minus x1. So therefore, from the midpoint, we have to do plus or minus x2 minus x1 divided by 2. So actually, we don't even have to make these assumptions anymore. All right, kasi ganito, the assumptions we made would be useful to decide that, for example, y2 minus y1 is going to be positive. So, okay, this is going to be positive if y2 is greater than y1. But then the question, what if y1 nung mas malaki? What if y1 nung mas malaki? And the distance in that case would be y1 minus y2. But in the end, it's not going to make any difference because you're going to do a plus or minus anyway.
Nice. Successfully
All right,
proven.
so the relations between the coordinates are not going to matter. So yeah. All right. So I think you have, although to do, check lang natin ano nung mangyayari ha. Kasi we have, all right, x1 plus x2 over 2. And then plus y2 minus y1 over 2. And then bettering, wait, y1 plus y2 over 2 plus x2 minus x1 over 2.
Copy paste. No.
Yeah, of course. Pero just to make sure everything's wrapped up nicely. Kasi
How is this funny?
it's not funny. All right. Kasi naglagay lang ng plus or minus eh. So pwedeng right, actually nung signs na i-consider natin ay magka-iba. So kung plus dito sa first, then minus dun sa kabila. But wait, I think you said na try mo na the formulas, right? And they ended up the same. All right, so all right, wrap up. So minus dito, and then okay, minus.
Kung ganun po, why don't you just remove po the top, the vertical line in the plus?
So gawin natin, yeah, pwedeng gawin in red. Let's make it minus plus. Yeah, I just wanted to verify kasi ito nung first time that I've encountered this formula. It's not something that I don't think I'll be able to remember it, but I think what I remember is nung method. Okay, so ito would be, will it lead to your
Moment of
x1 plus x2 and then y1. Oh wait, hold on, sorry. I forgot. Minus pala dito. So no, plus y2 minus y1. So ito yun. y1 plus y2 plus x1 minus x2. And then this is that. Plus y1 minus y2. And then x2 minus x1. There you go. All right. Okay. So hindi ko na i-check ng other points. But you know what? Ano hinahanap natin? What we're trying to look for?
find circle.
Circle tangent.
Okay, circle, di ba?
Abo. Ayan,
So, So what you did is, so meron na tayong radius dito, radius. Kailangan na lang natin ng center, but the center, isn't that just going to be the midpoint here?
Hindi po. Oh, wait a minute.
It will.
Oh, hindi ba? Hindi
Oh,
ba?
wait. No, sorry. No. You're right. Sorry, I was thinking of something else. Never mind. Never mind. Okay. Sorry, we're looking for not the center of the square, the center of the circle. I thought it's the center of the square. All right. The center of the square, which means, sorry, the center of the circle is what we need, which means kailangan talaga natin ng ano, nung, okay. Pero here's how I would have done it. So ganito, kasi, ano, okay na pala, never mind. I would have, not in terms of formula, but I would be thinking of going 3 units to the left, 4 units down, things like that. Okay, so for May 21, balik tayo dun sa May 21. So ito mabilis lang to. Okay, 9x squared, 4y squared, minus 18x plus 16y minus 11. So should be fast. Okay, 18x, 4y squared, 16y move 11. All right, so plus 1 plus 4, so we add on the other side 36. Oh wait, of course you really meant here. Okay, 9 times 1. 9 times 1. Typo, I think it's just a typo. 20, where I wrote red. Okay, typo, but you're right, it's gonna be 36. So yes, this is standard. And then it's longer on the y part. So we have an ellipse that's elongated vertically. The center is 1. Oh wait, not that one. I was looking for the other things. So the center 1 comma negative 2. All right, so a squared is 4, b squared is 9, so c squared is going to be 5, so square root of 5. Okay, all right, so for the foci we go up by square root of 5 units.
Bro, me when I forgot the center, literally the most important.
All right, well, in this case the w's are the major vertices, and then the v's are the minors. Okay, so 3 units, so just go up by 3 units. All right, and then to the left and right by 2 units. Okie dokie. All right, and then number 3. Copy and canal. So I don't have to keep on scrolling up and down. Third 9y squared, 4x minus 18, y plus 13. So 4x negative 13, 4. So 0. But do we really have an ellipse here? The analysis using A and B would prosper if it was 1 on the right side.
Bro, me after forgetting po.
Look here, x plus 2 quantity squared. Yeah. All right, so the graph is a point. What
Ito,
are the
mali.
coordinates?
First na mali po.
What are the
Coordinates.
coordinates?
-2, 1.
Yeah, that's it. So there's no major axis to speak of, no minor axis. All right. So again, nangyari kasi, if it was some other positive thing, kunwari x plus 2 quantity squared plus 9, y minus 1 quantity squared equals 7, even if it's not a perfect square. Kunwari, it turned out to be 7. So how would we proceed from that? So what we'd have to do is divide by 7 because you want it to be 1 on the other side. So if it's 0 on the right side, you cannot divide by 0. But here, you can divide by 7 because 7 is not 0. So that's how we get 1. And then x plus 2 quantity squared over 7 plus y minus 1 quantity squared over, well, you have 9 in the numerator and 7 downstairs. So you would have to rewrite that as a denominator of 7 over 9. All right. But then this analysis involving a squared and b squared would be possible if the right side can be turned into the constant 1, which is not possible in this case because the right side is 0.
Bro.
Okay, and then yes, the ellipse does not exist here. Again, you actually didn't have
I wasn't
that.
fooled.
Yeah, this part is unnecessary by simply analyzing that the left side is greater than or equal to 0, and yet the right side is negative. All right. Okay. Hold on. Actually, the analysis is incomplete because you have not completed the square yet. Hindi mo pa na-complete yung square, so who knows what would have, what this would have turned out. So plus 4.
Why did I forget to complete the square?
Plus 9. But then still, this ends up being negative 5. So 4x minus 2 quantity squared plus 9, y plus 1 quantity squared equals negative 5. The left side is going to be positive for many pairs of x and y. There's a possibility of 0 when x is 2 and y is negative 1. So the left-hand side is greater than or equal to 0. But the right-hand side, negative 5, is negative. So the graph is empty. It doesn't contain any point, so there's no ellipse. So yeah, same conclusion, except that you were unable to complete the square, which is what you should have done. Because when you complete the square, yeah.
Square.
So who knows? Kasi that the right side might still turn out to be positive. Baka may hope pa.
Pwede ba pong sabihin the ellipse is a point kung if it's degenerate into a point po?
If it's yeah, actually, if we are to go back to the figure that I first gave when we were talking about conic sections, actually, well, when we talked about how a plane can cut the cone to form all these different possible intersections. Gosh, where is it? I'm looking for. So.
No.
Ito, here. All right. So do you remember that that illustration? So pwede pa rin naman, and then depending on how, wait, I'm looking for the figure so that I don't have to draw it because I don't want to draw it. Ayun. Okay. Here. because I made these figures a long time ago. So
Maybe
gosh darn, I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use that.
interesting. Talaga pong it very looks like it looks like po it wasn't stolen from Wikipedia.
Actually, not from not from Wikipedia. I didn't draw it by hand, but I was the one who made this. This is all from GeoGebra.
Yun, grabe pala po yung GeoGebra these days. Grabe po yung update.
Oh, yeah. Wait. One more.
Lah, lubat.
Yeah, I'm pasting it.
Hindi ko tamaan. It's on the other side. Yun.
Paper till the end of the May 21 discussion. Ayun. All right, here we go. You're waiting for it to appear. Ayun.
Interesting.
So you could tilt the plane, you could position the plane so that when it intersects the space which contains the two cones, you can see, as in the first illustration, end up with just a single point.
Nice.
All right. It's also possible.
It's a point at the generate of pretty much every single thing except an empty space.
Yeah. Oh, parang you could imagine, in the case of a circle, collapsing the radius until it gets to 0, so that you end up with just a single point.
Nice.
So basically, ganun nung nangyari. Wait, do I have the? Well, I don't have the. Okay. And then for the second, so you can see you could position the plane to have it slanted just at the right amount, so that it's gonna be tangent to the two cones, and then what you get is a line. All right, as you can see in the last illustration, so what you would actually get are two intersecting lines. All right, so these are some of the generate cases of conic sections.
Why don't we call instead of we have to say it or write this whole word hyperboloid in 2 sheets or 1 sheet, you just say hourglass for the hyperboloid in 1 sheet.
Well, kasi for the hyperboloid of 1 sheet, it's I think this harkens back to when you asked me what's an oval. It's not a mathematically precise term. Yeah, so yeah, hourglass. You could, it evokes a sense of combining 2 cups, but as for the actual shape, well, it's not mathematically accurate. But yeah, I get what you mean. Okay.
Dapat po we should petition the change in mathematics.
Sige, who are you gonna petition? All right. Okay. So let's continue with some more problems involving ellipses, so that finally we could go right into hyperbolas. Some applications. I also want to talk about the reflective property of these conic sections without using calculus, because I know it's standard to prove them using calculus, but it has some examples which use the different properties. Find an equation or equations of the ellipse or ellipses satisfying the following conditions. Okay. So number one, center is the point 2, 3, and then the length of the minor axis is 8, and the foci are -2, 3, and 6, 3. Of course, it's possible for an ellipse to not be horizontal or vertical, but because of the given foci and the center, you know what? In fact, because we are provided the two foci, pwede natin tanggalin ng condition na to eh. We don't need to be told what the center is.
So we need
Alright.
only one axis and then the foci. That's it po.
Well, we need
Just the
one
foci.
of the axes.
Kasi
Well, the foci. Sorry, what's that?
technically po, we just need the foci.
Yeah, the foci, and well, also the length of the minor axis, because the foci will tell us what C is, and then from the length of the there are 3 letters A, B, and C, and then the foci will tell us what C is, and then the length of the minor axis will tell us what B is, and then there's a relationship between the 3 letters. So as soon as you know 2 of them, then you'll be able to figure out the third one.
This
Alright.
A po necessarily have to be the major axis and be the minor axis.
It's a matter of standard. I know in your solution you used A for horizontal, even if A is smaller than B. So ultimately, it's a matter of standard. So to answer the question, does A have to be does A have to be greater than B? It depends on what you're following. I give more importance to how you are using them. So if you're going to follow the standard that A is greater than B, then in this case, C squared would be A squared minus B squared. But if you're open to the possibility that B is greater than A, then you just have to define C squared as B squared minus A squared. So C, in the end, use whichever is going to make sense. Kasi syempre, if A is greater than B, then B squared minus A squared would be negative. So, yeah. So in the end, I look at how a student uses A and B, and then how the student adjusts the formulas. All right. So given the foci from F1 and F2, okay, the center C would be the midpoint. So the y coordinate is 3. The -2 plus 6 is 4 divided by 2. So it's 2. So that means the value of C is the distance from the center to any of the foci. So this is going to be horizontal distance, 4 units. Okay. The length of the minor axis is 8. So 2b is 8. So that's going to mean b is equal to 4. All right. So consequently, c squared, which is a squared minus b squared, because that's what I'm using. I used b for the length of the minor axis. So therefore, a would have to be the larger one. So a squared minus b squared is what I should use as formula for c squared. So a squared would then be c squared plus b squared. So we have 32. So a is going to be 16 times 2, 4 square root of 2. And then, so therefore, the equation, actually, it turns out I didn't need to take the square root of 32. I just need, after all, Wait, hold on. Is a ellipse horizontal or vertical?
Horizontal.
All right. So then that dictates a squared is 32, it's larger, and then b squared is 16. So 32 under the x part and 16 under the y part. And then that's it. So here that's how we're able to arrive at the conclusion that the ellipse is horizontal. It's because of the foci, because they have the same y coordinates. So the ellipse is horizontal. All right. Number 2, the foci have coordinates 3 plus or minus square root of 10, comma 1, and the covarices, the 3 comma negative 2 and 3 comma 4. But then parang halos kapareho lang eh, no? Kasi
When
from
you
the
get the vertices, you can get the minor axis or major axis. I mean minor axis. So therefore,
yeah,
you can solve it.
Alright, so skip na natin kasi parang rehash lang to ng number 1. Number 3, doon tayo sa mga mas exciting. One focus is at 2, 3.
When the focus has no square root, it's not a surge.
Okay, one vertex at the point 2, 6. The length of the minor axis is 18.
So we have we have apo minus we have the major axis minus the focal distance, and we have the minor axis. So a minus.
But hey, also there are 2 vertices. There are 2 foci. The given focus and the given vertex, they don't have to be the focus vertex pair that's closest to each other. So you would have to argue that. Although the fact that the length of the minor axis is 18 should be used in the argument. But well, first things first, it is from the given coordinates, can we decide if the ellipse is horizontal or vertical?
So one vertex and then the one vertex and the focus. We only have a minus c, and when we only have minor axis, we cannot determine whether the major axis is actually greater than the minor axis.
Well, but by definition, the major axis should be longer than the minor axis. Right, but my question is, can we decide if the major axis is horizontal or vertical?
I forgot it. We must know. I also forgot po, the major axis does not need to be the axis that is greater. It needs to be the axis that encompasses the foci. So
compare the axis that contains the foci is the longer axis.
I realized. Okay. So yung ano po, since they are on top of each other, the focus and one vertex. So it means the major axis is vertical. So the ellipse is vertical.
Yes. Right. Okay. So the ellipse is vertical. So you have 2, 6 here. So that's the vertex, and then focus is at 2, 3. So this goes to show that the other vertex must be below, much lower. Kasi you can't have the other vertex above because between the two vertices, you should be able to find the two foci, but hey, you have 2, 3. So that means the other vertex, whatever it is, it's going to have to be below. However, the other focus, we don't know if the other focus is going to be above 2, 3, or if it's going to be below 2, 3. So is the other focus F prime below F, or between V and F? What do you think?
Since one vertex is on top of the other focus must be below it because that's already one vertex. If the focus will if the other focus were to be on top of it, why is there even a vertex? Why is there even a vertex there? Oh wait a
No,
minute.
I meant
I mean actually po,
uh
I realized then it means that then it means po that this focus that there's a possibility that the focus is in between the focus and the vertex. But that would mean po that
yeah.
the major axis would be ano. But that could mean po that the major axis is less than 3. But since the minor axis is 18, that cannot be.
All right. So hold on. We have to. What would you mean major axis?
The axis that contains po the foci must be greater than the other axis, obviously. So if so ito po yung there's this focus and then this the vertex. There are two possibilities. Either one focus po is
All right.
below
How about
or
for specificity? Kasi there are two foci. Why don't we use F and F prime? So F is a given focus 2, 3. F prime is the mystery focus.
yun nga po. So this is F and then either F prime is here or in between. But if F prime is in between, then the major axis would be the major axis po uh hmm. So if kung one, the focal the distance po from F to V is 3 and then the focus wait actually if that's 3 then the other distance would also be 3. That would be less than it means po that the distance from the one vertex to the other vertex below it must be less than 6. But since the minor axis is 18, the major axis must be greater than 18. But in that case, it was less than 6. So therefore, the F prime must be below F.
Right. Okay. Okay. So, but that would have to be part of the argument. All right. So I think you got the point. You cannot just argue right away that F prime is lower. It would have to be part of your. You would have to articulate why that's so. All right. So let's write it down. Let's dispel the first possibility that F prime is between. Okay. Suppose F prime is between V and F. Okay. You could argue like this. The center is between F prime and F. But from V to F, that's already a distance of 3 units because of the given coordinates 2, 6 and 2, 3. So note that VF is equal to 3. So from the vertex to the center, that's definitely going to be less than 3. This means the major axis has length twice VC, which is less than 6. Impossible. Okay, I don't know how to spell impossible. Single B. Impossible, since the minor axis has a bigger length of 18. All right, which means the other mystery focus F prime would have to be much lower. Is below F.
Actually po, we can if we can we can determine, bro. Yes, we can determine because the major axis must be greater than 18. Then we can approximate po the distance, the necessary distance, the minimum distance required for F prime to be below F.
Well, but however, that's only going to be an approximation,
bro.
Would not. I mean, I guess it would lead there. Well, okay, so we're looking for the center, so we need that. Also ABC, or if not both of them, maybe just two of them. Now okay, the minor axis is like 18, so 2B is 18, so that's going to make this B is equal to 9. Okay. What's the relationship between the quantities A, B, C? So A is longer, so that means C squared is equal to A squared minus B squared. But B is 9, so that means C squared is equal to A squared minus 81. So of course it means 81 is equal to A squared minus C squared. Okay, can we use
Yes.
coordinates?
We can use.
How?
Because a squared minus c squared is equal to a plus c times a minus c. And then we already know what a minus c is, and that is
which is? All right. Okay.
So now if we know then we can solve a
from
plus
C
c.
to F.
From a plus c,
Right.
we can add that to a minus c and get 2a, which is the major axis. And then we can solve the ellipse.
All right. So a minus c is 3, which means a plus c is equal to 27. But then you have the system a plus c is 27, a minus c equals 3, which means that a is equal to 15 and c is equal to 12. All right. And so actually for the equation, what we need are a squared and b squared. But, well, let's not forget, we need to know what the center is. Well,
that's easy because since we can find the major axis po, we can then find the radius of the ellipse from with respect to the major axis, and then from there we can conclude it's
well, I'm not sure what you meant by radius.
the
Did you mean
distance
the
from
distance from the center?
the distance from the center to the
To
to the
V.
higher vertex or any vertex.
All right. Okay.
And then we can then
So
find
actually, so you're talking about A.
Yes. We know once we know A, then we can find the coordinates of the
Since
center.
A is equal to 15 and B is 2, 6, then the center would be 15 units below. So 2 comma negative 9. All right, so now we have the following equation for ellipse: x minus 2 quantity squared plus y plus 9 quantity squared equals 1. And then we have a 15, b is 9, and then the ellipse is vertical. So 15 squared will go under the y part, And 9 squared will go under the x part. All right.
Yay!
Okay. Okay. Lagyan na tayo mga miscellaneous problems. After talking about the reflective property. Okay. Reflective or reflection property of parabolas and ellipses. Saka na tayo mag-hyperbola. No, hyperbola medyo mabilis lang naman yun eh. So what we know, as we've already pointed out for a parabola, is the following. So, okay, so draw a parabola, and then here is its
May tatanong
focus.
pala po ko. Di ba
And
di ba
then,
po, yun sa
yeah,
mga
go ahead.
actually po, I should have read about this, but apparently I haven't po. So, yung sa mga trajectory po ng planet, if it's in a closed form, it must be an ellipse po eh, kasi it must approximate be an ellipse. Kasi Kepler's law. Pero pag ano po, if it goes out of the trajectory, would it be one part of a hyperbola po?
Pwedeng, actually pwedeng hyperbola, pwedeng parabola. Pwedeng parabola. It can be proved from, we did it this semester in my vector calculus class. We proved using the laws of gravitation from Newton's second law. Pinrove namin that the trajectory of a heavenly body, it's actually going to be an ellipse. Sorry, it's going to be a conic section.
Wow, it's true.
So conic section. Tapos, so therefore, if the trajectory is closed, so babalik siya, ang conic section lang naman natin na closed and bounded is an ellipse. A circle is part of an ellipse, the part of the family of ellipses. So therefore, for the planetary solar system, kasi bumabalik, bounded nung it's actually an ellipse. Actually, ang isa pang kailangan i-prove, how do you know that the orbit can be contained in a plane? Kasi, okay, so notebook, no? Andito ng sun. Tapos, right now, andito nung planet Earth. Even before we go to the issue of how do we know that the trajectory, that the orbit is going to be an ellipse, first we have to prove that the orbit is contained in a plane. How do you know na halimbawa andito ng sun tapos andito ng planet Earth? How do you know nung planet Earth hindi aangat sa plane tapos pupunta sa ilalim below the plane? After all, space is three-dimensional eh. Space is three-dimensional. So parang part 1, prove that the orbit, prove that all the points of the orbit are coplanar. So that's actually part 1. A lot of people focus on part 2, proving that the orbit is elliptical. But actually, it's part 1 and part 2. First, the orbit is on a plane, can be embedded on a plane, and the number 2, prove that it's an ellipse. And for part 2, the proof is actually showing that it's going to be a conic section. So for some heavenly bodies which pass around the star and then do not go back, so you have the other 2 remaining possibilities, a parabola or a branch of a hyperbola. So parang the door is not closed.
Orbit nga po is either a parabola or hyperbola po. It looked like a hyperbola or parabola po, so I just hypothesized it lang po eh.
So actually pwede ng both. Pwede yung parabola, pwede din hyperbola. All right, and it's got nothing to do with the fact that it's on the solar system. Basically, you have all these forces. Tapos, so in fact, this could be applied as well to molecular level. Diba? You have atomic particles revolving around. Kasi in the end, they're just subject to these gravitational forces, and if we're going to assume mga formulas like force equals mass times acceleration, so you could apply it either at a macroscopic or microscopic level. All right. So it can actually be proved. Okay. Pero kailangan ng matinding calculus for that. All right. But for back to the reflective property of parabolas and ellipses, I want to. Yes.
Meron kayong video nun po.
Maganda.
mga enthusiasts.
Alin nung
they will be interested na po.
Ano nung proof? Pero actually, minsan hindi na di-discuss, pero nasa ano naman siya nakikita ko so far, mga nasa calculus book. Pero kailangan talaga kailangan ng technical background. Okay. So, ito nung axis natin. Axis. If meron tayong light ray that's gonna run parallel to the axis, and it hits the parabola. Okay. Tapos when it bounces off, dapat sa focus ang so dapat sa focus ang tuloy niya. Okay, so why is that? Okay. So kailangan natin nung tangent. Actually, the argument is the angle here, alpha, and then the angle here.
May tanong din pala po ko dyan regarding that. We assume po in this case that the sun is so large that the rays po are almost are parallel. But since the sun po is just a single we can assume it's technically just a single it's just a single ball. Then why weren't we using ellipsoid ellipsoid na portions of an ellipsoid rather than portions of a paraboloid?
Wait, so this is not so asa nung sun dito para lang malinaw tayo sa usapan.
Let's say po the sun is really far away, but technically po that's just one focus of an ellipse.
All right. So I think ganito. There are going to be other rays of light which are going to hit the surface in a direction which is not parallel to the axis. So pwedeng kunwari ito, light ray. That's possible. So when it bounces off, hindi siya mag-hit sa focus. Right? But what we're saying is that nung mga light rays that are parallel to the axis, when they bounce off, dun sila sa focus. Okay? But is it possible for other light rays?
Hindi po sila parallel kasi the sun is very far away. It's effectively a single point of light eh.
But if there is na daw. There's a light ray.
So pwede magkaroon ng mga ganung mga small deviations. Okay. So pwede ka magkaroon ng mga small deviations, but eventually, kunwari, pag build ka ng focus, which is kunwari the tip of a satellite pointer, hindi naman siya talaga isang theoretical point eh. Parang nung point na to, it's still gonna be able to, kahit paano may length pa rin yan eh, nung tip na yan eh. So, all right, maybe kunwari, light rays coming from the sun, or even kunwari nga flashlight eh. Let's say flashlight. Or even if we're not just talking about light rays, but then sound waves bouncing off a satellite dish in the shape of a paraboloid. So some of them are not going to run parallel to the axis, but at least no mga rays which are parallel to the axis, we get to focus the signal. Okay. So nung pagiging immense ng size ng sun, actually the fact nga na nung light rays ng sun, the fact that the sun is big, parang ano pa nga rin eh. So okay, kunwari ito ng sun, tas ito nung parabolic satellite. Actually, ng light rays ng sun, it's gonna go all around. It's just that there's just gonna be so many of them. And that's the reason, with a large probability, a lot of those rays would eventually be practically parallel to the axis. So parang nung maraming hindi parallel sa axis, pero marami pa rin parallel sa axis. And nung maraming rays na yun na parallel sa axis, they're the ones that we can refocus. Okay, so ito, what we need to do is, if we label some of the points here, let's call this P. And then ito, A. Okay, we've already labeled that F. Tapos ito, let's label this B and C. We need to show that angle APB equals angle FPC. All right, kasi ito nung common angle of incidence and reflection. So we got to show na if the angle APB is alpha, then we have to show that from the focus to point P and then some other points on the other side, we need to show that the angle there is still going to be alpha to really prove that when the signal bounces off, it will indeed go to the focus. So yun ang kailangan natin pagkita. APB equals FPC. And then in the case of an ellipse naman, okay, F1, F2, and then if we choose an arbitrary point on the surface, example, itong point B na to, tapos if you draw the tangent to the ellipse at point P, they connect the two foci to point P, tapos label natin ng points like so, A and B. So what we want to do is to show that angle F to PA equals angle F1 PB. So we want to show na kung ito ay alpha, then ito alpha rin. Okay, and then if we can do that, then that will be justification for the reflective property of parabolas and ellipses that we all know. So before I prove these two things, okay, a preliminary fact. Let's say you have 2 points, A and B, not on a line, but they're on the same side of the line. And then on the line, there are going to be infinitely many points. Okay. Okay. Suppose. Okay. Okay. There are infinitely many paths from A to B which pass through a point on line L. The total path length is minimized, which pass through a point C. Okay, so I have the following theorem. Claim the path length is minimized.
Ito po yung
When
ito po yung theorem sa reflection po sa light po. Yung pag ano po, equal po yung angle of incidence and reflection.
Yeah.
Possible
Right.
path.
So the path length is minimized when angle ACD is equal to angle BCE. Right. So, all right. Okay. So you're familiar with this na naman yata, no? The idea behind is, kunwari, if you take the reflection of B there on the other side, so B prime, so reflection,
It would be a straight path.
so it would be a straight path. Okay. And if it's a straight path, then the angle here will be the same as this angle here. But because of the reflection, then the angle here below will be the same as this angle above. All right. So that's why you're going to have equality. Okay.
Nice.
Now punta tayo dun sa a situation with an ellipse. Okay. I'm just going to draw the upper portion of our ellipse. And then this is F1, and then this is F2, and then here we have a particular point P. Ibig sabihin, are you saying many times pangit nung all right. So ito P. Okay. Kuha tayo ng arbitrary point Q. Okay. So choose a point P on the ellipse. Okay. Let L be the line tangent to the ellipse at point P. Okay. Ngayon, kuha tayo ng point Q on L, but different from P. Okay. Pick an arbitrary point Q on L, but with Q different from P. Okay. Now, nung definition natin ng ellipse is that it consists of all points whose sum of distances from the two foci is equal to a constant. In fact, ang ginamit natin symbol for that is 2a. Tapos nung a na yun ang nag-a-appear. So remember this. Okay, let 2a be the constant sum of the distances. The value a here is precisely actually 2a ends up being precisely the length of the major axis. So ito, let's use the same symbol. Let Pf1 plus Pf2, let it be 2a. Okay. Ngayon, what I would like us to measure is Qf1 plus Qf2. All right. Qf1 to Qf2. How do you think is that going to compare to Pf1 plus Pf2?
That must be greater, of course po, kasi there's an obvious kasi since Pf1 plus Pf2 is constant for any possible P on the ellipse, then I can assume that that little deviation from Q to the surface of the ellipse is enough na is already enough na you can say it's greater po. Kasi dapat it should be, kasi dapat po yung anything from
so it's a bit choppy, but you're saying
so yung deviation po from Q to the surface of the ellipse is positive po. It's enough to say that Qf1 plus Qf2 is greater.
So basically, lalampas tayo. All right. Ito. But we could articulate that as follows. So ito, let's define point R. Okay. Let QF2 intersect the ellipse at point R. Okay. R is on the ellipse. And so that means, just like point P, the sum of the distances of R from the two foci is 2A. So RF1 plus RF2 equals 2A. Okay? So ngayon, i-compare natin, nung tanong ko kanina, how about point Q? QF1 plus QF2. Alright? Pero nung QF1, okay, let me write it as follows. Ito. QF1. Nung QF2, nung nandun sa right, let me break it down into QR plus RF2. Okay, so hinati ko lang. QR and then RF2, that's going to be QF2. Okay, and then I'm going to regroup the QF1 plus QR plus RF2. Okay, pero ano ngayon ng QF1? Ito nung QF1, and here is QR. But if you look at the triangle QF1R, remember triangle inequality, the sum of any two sides is strictly larger than the other side. So QF1 plus QR is strictly larger than RF1. So now we have strictly greater than RF1 plus RF2. But because R is on the ellipse, this is 2A. All right. So what have we just come up with? Q is an arbitrary point on line L, okay, for which QF1 plus QF2 is strictly greater than 2A. Okay, so ngayon ilalapit na natin to dito sa preliminary fact that I mentioned earlier. Okay, if we will travel from F1 to F2.
Ngayon po baliktad. Since we know that that is the shortest path,
Okay.
we can conclude yung angle po is the same. Babaliktad.
Okay, sorry, medyo naging choppy doon. If you'll travel, nakita mo? Kasi if you're gonna travel from F1 to F2 through any point on that line L, the minimum path will have to be at point P. Okay. How do you know we will achieve the minimum path at point P? Because if we take any other point Q on the line, nung sum of the distances will always be larger than 2A. All right. The minimum, okay. The path with minimum length is through P. And so therefore, using the preliminary fact, okay, if C is the point on the line where the sum of the path is going to be, or the length of the path is going to be minimized, then you should get those two congruent angles. So that's why. So para mangyari, kung ito nung point P, and these are the two foci, F1 and then F2. So point P is where we get the smallest possible length of the path. So magiging equal dapat ng angle. So what arbitrary points should they use? A and B. A and B. Thus, okay, angle F1 PB equals angle F2 PA. All right. Finally, paano naman sa parabola? Okay. I'm afraid this is not going to be a good drawing. Okay, pero ganito.
It looks like ano po, it looks like a porpoise. Draw niyo po yung line, yung x-axis po, yung sa may parang bibig po na porpoise para talaga magmukha po siyang porpoise. No! Yay! Bro, it's a short! No!
All right. Yeah.
Ngayon po, mas matalino ngayon po siya.
Kailangan natin ng axis. Point P, and then remember, ito, by definition, okay, P is the collection of all points having the same distance from the focus and the directrix. Hence, those two segments are marked as congruent. So ngayon, gusto natin i-consider nung ganitong scenario. Okay, I want to exaggerate the curving of the parabola. Okay. Yeah. That's drawing natin nung tangent to the point B.
The tangent, yung tangent po lagi yung ano eh, yung tangent po lagi yung basis of the proof.
So yeah, kasi actually after all, when you measure the angle of incidence and reflection, it has to be against the tangent. Okay. All right. Okay. So line, so itong ray of light or ray of signal parallel to the axis. Okay. Pili tayo ng arbitrary point here before it reaches the point of contact A. So point A, and then this is the focus.
Locus.
So AP is parallel to the axis. Tapos ito nung point of contact, let's call this D. Alright, so A, P, D, these are going to be equilinear triple of points kasi lahat sila parallel naman doon sa axis kasi 90-degree angle here, and then the directrix and the axis make a 90-degree angle. Okay. So consider, okay, paths from A to F passing through line L. From A to F that are going to pass through line L. So kunwari, arbitrary point Q here. Yikes. As I think you might be able to see the argument that if Q was some other point, then the sum of the path would be much larger than if we were to go through point B. Say through point Q different from point B. Okay, Pero kasi ang mangyayari ay basically the idea is that AQ plus QF will be greater than AP plus PF. Okay, so kumbaga the travel will be minimized at point P, and because P is that particular point for which the sum of the paths will be minimized, then that would lead to using the preliminary fact that those two angles marked in green are going to be equal. All right, so it's just an issue of trying to justify that AQ plus QF will indeed be greater than AP plus PF. All right. Paano kaya yon? Would you like to maybe pag-isipan, tapos balikan natin ha? Let's do a rain check on this. All right. Kailangan magamit ng fact that
Kala ko pag-isipan mo sa time. No! Green box.
all right. Alright, so next time ano natin? Okay, so other problems involving ellipses and parabolas. Something which I would also like you to try.
Try?
Ito. So gawin natin colorful house.
No! Bro!
Kasi I already made I already solved a problem similar to this. This has got to do with the fact that you know how parabolas, they don't necessarily have to open left, right, up, down, and an ellipse doesn't necessarily have to be horizontal or vertical.
Oh no, it's an oblique.
Okay, find the equation of the ellipse, okay, consisting of all points P such that P the sum of its distances from the following 2 points, F1 with coordinates -2 square root of 2, comma -2 square root of 2, and F2 with coordinates the positive version is 12. All right, so visually, here's what's going on. Okay, for both the two foci, the y and x coordinates happen to be the same. So that means the foci are here on the line with equation y equals x. So this is F2. And then here is F1. We're looking for all the points such that the sum of the distances of P from F1 and F2 is equal to 12. So all the points P satisfying that condition would form an ellipse. Okay, so what's the equation of this ellipse?
Bro.
Sa parabola.
Gano'n karami po yung mga problems niyo po?
These are just random problems. I get them from various sources. equation. Example.
Example. When it's not a green box but it's just blue, EX.
Yes. Find the equations of all parabolas whose vertex is a focus of the ellipse. Halo-halo na? Why not?
Bro.
And whose focus is a vertex.
Dapat yung pinaka-final problem po para talagang kung makakalculate na po, lahat po na every single topic po lagay nyo.
Yeah, oo. Lalagyan din natin ng mga remainder of the polynomial when it's divided by x minus 7. May remainder theorem then. Alright, so find the equations of all parabolas whose vertex is a focus of the ellipse and whose focus is a vertex of the ellipse. So we're given the equation of an ellipse. And so the problem refers to a focus of the ellipse and a vertex of the ellipse. Although keep in mind that an ellipse has two foci and also two vertices. So anyway, let's first figure out what those are by writing down the equation in the familiar form where it should be 1 on the right side. Hello, Joshua? Is my reception clear or napuputol ba ako? Okay lang ba ako?
Clear po, clear.
Baka mukha lang po kaming yung vegetable, pero okay lang po.
Clear po. Kami
Clear.
po, clear
Okay.
po.
Sige, alright, just making sure kasi kayo nung... Okay, kayo nung tinitigil nag-stop dance kayo. Alright.
Hindi po gumagalaw.
Alright. 6 and x squared plus 25 y squared over 400 equals 1. And then, fortunately, 16 times 25 is 400. So this is 25 and this is 16. So that means that we have a horizontal parabola. So a squared 16, b squared is 9, which means c squared is equal to 16 minus 9, or 7. The center is clearly the origin.
Nice.
So that's the center. So that means we need to go square root of 7 units to the left and right for the two foci. And then A is equal to 4. So V1, negative 4, 0. And then V2, 4, 0. Alright, so these are the vertices and foci of the ellipse. Of course, we could also spend time figuring out the covertices, but the problem doesn't seem to need it. All right, we're trying to find the equations of all possible parabolas satisfying the conditions given below. Its vertex is a focus of the ellipse. So for our parabola, the vertex can be F1 or F2, and then the focus will be a vertex.
How can we tell po if we're looking for the vertex pala must be the vertex of the major axis. Okay, I see po.
So here are the possibilities for the parabola. So one possibility is all right. All right. So basically nangyayari, kung vertex siya ng ellipse, magiging focus siya ng parabola. And kung focus siya ng ellipse,
it's a hyperbola imposter po.
yeah, they're switching No, actually, these are two different graphs in imposter, but all right. That was, but it's just an issue of, it's just a matter of keeping track of the different possibilities. So here I've used the case where F1 is the vertex, this time F2 naman ang vertex ng parabola. And then all right. But because the foci and vertices are horizontally aligned, then that means our parabolas, they're all going to be opening to the left or right, as you can see. And because they're opening to the left or right, then that means it's the y part that's going to be squared. For our parabolas, it's going to be y minus k quantity squared equals 4c multiplied by x minus h. Of course, the c here is different from the c above. Yes, so, all right. I think it's easier if we write down the coordinates negative square root of 7, 0. That's F1. And then F2, positive square root of 7, 0. V1, negative 4, 0. And V2 is 4, 0. For parabola, we need C, which is the focal distance, the distance from a focus to the vertex. But then C in these four parabolas should be merely the lengths of these respective segments. And so we're just going to have to compute for C individually for these particular scenarios. So for the first, C is equal to 4 minus square root of 7, 4 plus the square root of 7, and here E is 7 plus the square root of 4. Here we have 4 minus the square root of 7. Note that these are all positive quantities. So we have to remember that when we write down the equation of the parabola, it should have the appropriate plus or negative symbol there on the x part. So first answer, well, we're just going to have to use as our vertex the focus. So we have y squared equals, for the first case, it's opening to the left. So when I write down 4 times 4 minus square root of 7, so far this is positive, so I need to put a negative symbol. And then x plus the square root of 7. And then for the second case, we have y squared equals 4 times 4 plus the square root of 7, a positive quantity, which is appropriate for the parabola. So we don't need to append a negative symbol. And then x plus the square root of 7. And then for the third case, y squared equals 4 times 7 plus the square root of 4, which is positive, but the parabola opens to the left. So we need to put a negative symbol. And then x plus 4. And finally, y squared equals 4 times 4 minus the square root of 7, x minus the square root of 7. So these are the 4 parabolas, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Bro.
Okay, so pinaghalo-halo lang natin. It's just, ultimately keeping track of a parabola which opens upward has vertex on the line y equals x minus 2 and focus on the line y equals 9 minus 2x. Find an equation of this parabola. Dx. All right, well, at least we know it opens upward. So that means it's an x part that's going to be, it's an x part that's going to be squared. Tapos, the vertex is on the line y equals x minus 2. So I know that that opens, that's an increasing line. Y equals x minus 2, positive slope. And then we have another line, y equals 9 minus 2x, negative slope, kasi negative 2. All right. And fortunately, the problem tells us that the parabola opens upward, which means the focus is higher than the vertex. All right. The parabola opens upward, so the focus is here, the vertex is here. So therefore, we anticipate that the vertex is going to be somewhere here, and the focus is going to be somewhere there. Does this problem seem to have infinitely many answers, or do you think it only has one answer?
There's this focus, and then there's this vertex. But the vertex, I think it has only one answer because there's only one focus for one vertex. Wait up. And yes, there's only one focus on one vertex. But am I sure po that, are we sure po that only one focus lies on the line?
I mean, kasi, di ba, if you're given any 2 points, I can create a parabola where this is the vertex and where that's the focus. Di ba?
Okay, so there are infinite number of solutions.
Tama, di ba? Kasi, so I wonder if there is something missing in the problem. Let me check.
The problem was wrong.
Yeah, or the problem, or maybe our expectation is what's insufficient. I mean, the tayo na nag-expect na isa lang ng solution, but maybe, but I feel like the problem failed to mention one thing. Hold on, let me go back to the problem. Maybe I copied it incorrectly. Yeah. Alright, sige nga, kunwari, nung vertex, ang equation niya ay h. Now, ordinarily, we would write down k, but because y is equal to x minus 2, then we can write, if x is equal to h and y is equal to k, then y is x minus 2. So it's going to be h minus 2. So yun yung k. K is h minus 2. All right. So ngayon naman for the focus, the x coordinate, it's still going to be h. So the y coordinate is going to be 9 minus 2h. So therefore, the distance c between them will be 9 minus 2h. So the difference of the y coordinates minus quantity h minus 2. So ano to ba? 9 minus 2h minus quantity h minus 2. You would get 11 plus h. So therefore, the parabola, you're right, maraming possibilities. So ang vertex niya is h comma h minus 2. So y x minus h quantity squared equals 4c y minus k. So unahin natin x minus quantity h squared 4, and then c is 11 plus h, and then y minus k, which is h minus 2. Okay. So this can be simplified, of course, pero dapat, for this to work, 11 plus h must be positive. All right. Kasi ng parabola natin dapat paakyat eh. So dapat h must be greater than negative 11. Also, ganito, hold on. I'm curious, what's the point of intersection?
We can solve that.
9 minus 2x, and then x minus 2. X is 11 thirds.
Bro.
Pangit, but anyway.
When the expression is not when the coordinate is not an integer.
Okay. So you have x 3x is 11, so x is 11 thirds minus 6 thirds. So 11 thirds and 5 thirds. And in fact, h has to be greater than 9 minus 2h greater than oh, hold on, sorry. Bali nung pag-compute ko ng c here. 9 minus 2h minus, it's going to be 11 minus 3h. Yun pala, 11 minus 3h. 11 minus 3h. So dapat, ang condition, 11 minus 3h has to be positive. So that means h is less than 11 thirds. Ayun. So I was expecting kasi dapat nung vertex, nandun siya sa left ng intersection eh. Kasi you want the focus to be higher than the vertex. So condition, h has to be strictly less than 11 thirds. All right. But let me leave. Of course, you know, this has got to happen.
For these parabolas po dapat.
Yeah. So parabola, find an equation of all possible parabolas satisfying the condition. Okay. Halos puro parabola to. Hanap ako ng ellipse. Dalawa. All right. Find.
How is this even humane?
Because you are human and I am human. Therefore, the activities
this
we
should be
do
considered a
are humane.
violation according to the Geneva Conventions.
Find equation of the set of points in the plane whose distance from 2, 0 is 1/2 its distance from the line x equals 8. All right, but before I go to the second bullet point, so let me point out how this is significant or interesting. So the line x equals 8 is a vertical line. X equals 8. And then the point 2, 0 is somewhere on its left. 2, 0. Recall that if we're going to find all the points whose distance from 2, 0 is the same as its distance from the line, then what we would get is a parabola. But this time, we're not looking for equality of the distances, but rather the distance from 2, 0. If the distance is d, then the distance from the line is going to be twice that.
Interesting, but also kind of sussy.
So what you're going to do is similar to what remember the setup that we did in coming up with the general equation of the parabola and an ellipse. So in fact, mas general pa nga ng ano, it was in terms of symbols. So ito, you have specific coordinates and a specific equation that's provided. Last question, ano kaya nung set of points that would appear? Is it going to be a parabola or something else? And then, oh, why did I erase that when I could just move it down?
Imagine, bro, in the process of moving it down po, you created a temporary child po of the green box.
So what's an LR or a latus rectum of an ellipse? We defined it similarly for a parabola. For an ellipse, so take each of the foci, it doesn't matter which one, and then draw the segment that's perpendicular to the focus, through the focus and perpendicular to the axis. It doesn't matter which segment you consider because of the symmetry. Those two segments are going to have the same length anyway. Show that this is going to be equal to 2b squared over a.
Dapat po we should sign a petition po to the mathematics council. to rename the latus rectum into ano po, flatus rectum.
All right, funny. Anyway, Sergey and Joshua, I think that should suffice for today's lesson, for today's class. All right.
Okay po.
Thank
Thank
you,
you po.
sir.
Okay. Sige.
Bye-bye po.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye po.